Hello, friends. Welcome back. Episode 4 of this journey we're on with me, your host, Paul Reeves. Today we're going to be talking about the third song that's been released called This Journey We're On. So we got the theme song here. This Journey We're On is more of an overview. There's a couple of specific points, but today we're going to talk about the overall experience. And so thankful to do it with my good friend Bruce Lowe. For those new to the podcast, I've got my good friend Bruce Lowe, who we meet with every Tuesday and just simply talk about life and faith and really a lot of the questions that I had been stuck on for years and years. He's given me the space, patience, and just all the necessary ingredients to usher out the hardest questions and the deepest questions that have been in my spirit. And so I'm most thankful to have him here. I hope you will be equally blessed by the wisdom and love that flows from his heart. So without any further ado, thank you so much for joining us on this journey. Well, Bruce, welcome back. Chapter 3. We're going to talk about the song, This Journey We're On. I've received feedback. Everyone loves the accent you're putting on.
Great.
So keep it up. Don't let it slip. And
That's right.
It's so convincing.
Absolutely.
Not one has caught you.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, today, we're going to talk about the song, This Journey We're On, that just got released. And perhaps I could begin by reading a few lyrics. Here's the bridge of the song. On this journey through oceans and mountains, I threw coins in the fountain, made every last wish, the stars just fell down. I searched the desert, and the answer I found is, life is uncertain, but love is unbounded.
Great.
I think for me, if there was one song that you said, hey, just play one song, pick up your guitar and play one song and tell me how things have been going over the last 9 years. This song sort of is the synopsis. Without getting too specific in any area, it just talks about the search at large. And I want people to know that the search was gruesome. It was so difficult. There's just so much confusion. And I found it so difficult to find places that were really helpful to field these questions.
Yeah.
So once again, for the listener, that's why I'm so happy to have Bruce a part of this, because he came in at just the right moment and was just the most helpful guide. I think I found over the previous years, there would be two prominent groups that I would run into when I was trying to find answers to these questions. There would be one group that had very clear structures, clear belief systems, but it may not have been as welcoming to some of the ideas that seem bigger, or definitely the ones that were outside of my understanding, or the ones that just blow everybody's mind. If I tried to entertain those questions, sometimes they weren't welcomed. The other group, I found it was unhelpful because they may not throw any red flags to any doubt that I had, and they would welcome any question that I had, and there'd be zero judgment, but there'd be no structure and nothing to hang my ontological hat on, so to speak. And so, if I came and said, I feel so close to God when I throw ice cream cones off the pier into the ocean. If someone responds to me and says, oh, that's beautiful, my mind's going, I may have come to the wrong place, because I think I need someone to call me out and say there's something even more.
Yeah.
But why is it so hard to find a really rich balance, middle ground that does have something to hang your hat on, but at the same time isn't afraid to talk about a God that goes so far beyond what our minds are capable of comprehending.
Oh, I think that's so true, isn't it? And it's again, I just want to say how much I appreciate you, Paul, and even some of the words that you were reading there, just a real honest look, because I take it that the stars falling down and the coins in the fountain, you're referring to the fact that, like, okay, I'm just kind of going off the deep end here, and I'm searching for any kind of thing, and there's a real honesty about those words, which I really appreciate.
Yeah. No, there was a going here, there, and just everywhere in search of these answers. Sometimes literal, like, trips across the U.S. I remember from my 40th birthday, we went out to Colorado. This wasn't planned, but Katie knew that I was interested in going out to just anywhere in the desert. So Arizona, it just seemed like a really good place to have a retreat. But yeah, just everywhere I went, it sort of came up short. And I'd be like, surely we'll find the answer here. Surely we'll find the answer here. Surely, if I get in touch with this person, they'll be able to give me clarity. Yeah. And yeah, it felt like time after time, it would hit like a 6 out of 10. You'd get like a little bit, but nothing that really felt satisfying or complete by any means.
Yeah. And I love the way that you're talking about it in terms of those two extremes, right? Because there's that sense in which, I don't know, we find it hard to kind of be somewhere in the middle, in that middle space. It's like there's a tendency to want to nail everything down, or there's a tendency to say, I've experienced that nailing down thing, and that's kind of come up short, so let's go to the other extreme. So it's understandable. I think that's the first thing to say here, isn't it? That people do go to those extremes. But it makes it hard because so often the truth has both those elements. It has a guiding element, but it also has that sort of open space within the guide rails. And we need a bit of both, don't we? One of the things that strikes me, Paul, as I'm listening to you, is, and I know that some listeners are coming from very different angles, and they're aware that you and I are Christians. So we're not apologizing for that, but also want to be sensitive to that and sensitive to kind of explain ourselves well in all of this. Yeah. I know that the Bible gets a bad rap sometimes, and it feels sometimes as people approach the Bible, it's like, wow, I've got to overcome this boundary of the cultural and historical differences. And I've thought about that, some, and I thought, why did God do that? Why did God reveal himself that way? But I think, as we've talked about in our other talks, God is a relational God, and God is a God who wants to be engaged in the moment with real people. And in order for that to happen, he had to come at a moment in time. He could have appeared in, modern day America. He could have appeared, whatever. But he chose to appear in a certain period of time within a flow of history. And, we've got some work to do sometimes to kind of overcome those boundaries. But one of the things that does strike me about the Bible is the way that it really does provide these kind of boundary lines, and yet this much more flexibility sometimes than Christians give it credit for.
Talk about this.
Yeah. So, one example that comes to my mind is I just think about in the Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus is talking about, do not worry about what you eat or drink or wear. And he says, is not the body more than clothing? And the other day I was having breakfast with my son, Jim, and Jim and I were talking about that passage together. And I said, is not the body more than clothing? I said, what is the body for? Like, what things can your body do? And we started talking about it, and he said, well, you can exercise. But then we talked about the fact that you can make things, and you can help people, and you can hug, you can touch somebody else, you can ideas that your brain has for designs, let's say engineering designs, you could design things, you can write programs, this is it. Your body is this amazing thing that can do so many things. And Jesus' point is more just to say, don't get so hung up in what you put on this thing, on this body. How superficial can that be? There's so much more that your body can do, but it doesn't actually unpack all the more things that you can do. And as you go through the Bible and think about it, that's kind of the pattern over and over again. There were so many things happening in the ancient world about cities being built and walls and different, strategies in warfare and farming strategies and cultural changes. And so often those things just don't get kind of dug into and don't get focal, which gives the Bible actually a much more timeless sense. Yes, there are those historical things, those challenges, those humps that we've got to go over, but it's a whole lot less humps than we might expect because it gives us those principles, those timeless principles in many cases, and then leaves it up to us and to our relationship with God as we are walking through life. For our story to look a whole lot different from someone else's story, for it to unfold in different ways. Someone who's a modern day engineer can still take those principles, those wide boundary lines, those guide rails, and still function, in their individual engineering situation or business situation, maybe in the medical field. That's what's so beautiful about it. So I do think that sometimes Christians fall into the trap of kind of getting fixated about, what does God want me to do when it comes to entertainment? What can I watch? What can't I watch? Where can I go? How much of my life should it take up? And I think there's so much of that where God wants us to be agents in the world, and He wants us to have a story where we are responsible in that story and working it out with Him. So,
this is good. I definitely want to talk about that in a bit, the agency part and what part we have to play, what part does God play, what part does evil play.
Great.
And just, by the way, friends, I'm so glad that Bruce talked about when you were talking about what shall we wear? Because a lot of times I hear that verse and, just think, don't worry, or don't be, don't be so worldly. You're just worried about clothes, but how you started to even just talk about all the different things the body can do, and that that was an example of how you brought it even more to life and showed another side of the jewel, that sometimes you don't view it from all the different sides. And I feel like most of the times you rotate the gym just enough that I go, oh my goodness, there's that part too. And anyways,
well, it's so intrinsically positive, isn't it? That's what I love about that. Jesus is saying, okay, don't get fixated about what you wear because there is so much more to the body, and that just kind of gives you so much more of the bigness and the positivity of things. But to kind of double back down on that, really to what you were saying about. Why can't we find those communities? I think this is a good challenge for the listener to know that there are people who are asking questions, and maybe the listeners are those people and they're feeling frustrated that they can't find those communities, but maybe some of the listeners are those who are in those communities. And I would just encourage people and say, look, if you're in that camp, if you say you're Bible believing, then be Bible believing. Don't impose standards that are beyond what the Bible has to say, and don't undermine. Don't kind of go less than, of course. But I think there are a lot of people who are struggling, and they're struggling to find those kinds of communities because people have fallen into these two extremes. They've either said, I don't want any boundaries at all, or I want more and more boundaries, and I want to kind of impose ideas. I come across this all the time, and I think, don't go there. Like, it doesn't speak to that. It doesn't say you can't do that, you can't do this, and so let's not impose those things. They're always unhelpful for the very people that you're talking about, and so that's why your situation, Paul, I think again, so good and speaks into so many people's lives and some of the struggles that they've had.
Mm-hmm. And we kind of talked about that last week too, where we were saying, don't try to make God in our image. I think that's one of the reasons I feel like this is important, even just for the culture of what we're trying to go for. There seems to be a healthy middle way that's not watered down. It's not like in the middle, like, oh, it's lukewarm by any means. But I think it seems to be where the essence of truth resides. Because, yes, God has come in the flesh. We've been able to see God with our very eyes and experience God. And then at the same time, as we're trying to think about God here and now, it's just, just having once again, the humility to say, all right, I'm not going to be able to understand every single aspect of God. So what do I do in light of that? And just being, just having that, I think that healthy humility that also leaves us continuously open for growth.
Yeah.
Because if you go, I'm not there yet.
Exactly.
Then you're always in this state of also wonder.
That's
it
right.
leaves you curious, going, I have not figured God out. And so, I think every single night, like I go to sleep, just setting my consciousness on God's Spirit, and there's just sort of a wonder of just letting yourself be held by God, and just say, show me more.
But see, I love the way you're talking here, because this kind of illustrates the point, doesn't it? That nothing's for nothing, and when God's doing something in your life, you have something to say back into other people's lives. And that's also a warning, isn't it, for people who are listening, that it's like, for those who want to kind of, don't ask those questions. It's like, you're going to disrupt me, you're going to disrupt. I'm not thinking about those questions, so don't mess with my neat box here. And it's like, no, you need to be messed with.
Yes.
So
yes.
the very the very things that you were just talking about, the kind of language that you used just then, I think that's what's been such a blessing for me in our relationship, to spend time together. You're struggling, your questions are so good and so helpful. Look, even in light of that,
I've got a lot of struggling and a lot of questions. There's more where that came from, Bruce.
Well, even though in light of that, I guess I want to just take the chance to ask, and even let the listeners in. I mean, just to be truthful, I did come to this moment recently where I just thought, I got to ask Paul, wow, the cancer's come back. How you doing? And so you've kind of already given us a snapshot into you, and of course your songs do that. But in this very moment, as it's come back now, how you doing? How are you dealing with that?
It's also a joy to have that asked by you, because I really believe that when you ask that question, you are prepared to create the space within yourself to receive, whatever the weightiness of the response, which means so much. It doesn't feel like just sort of let me make sure I'm being polite by asking you how you're doing. It's an opportunity to really process it and receive some healing from it, in anticipation that a lot of people would ask me, how are you doing? And you're going to have to answer that question a good bit. I think recently when I was thinking, okay, no, how are you doing? Because it's not necessarily bad, even though I've been more exhausted this time than any time before. Just my mind and my spirit, and just, it's like there's been a little guy in there in the subconscious that's been just trying to hold things up for 9 years now, and he finally said, hold up. I did not sign up for this. I'm ready to go off the clock. So while there's been a lot of exhaustion, it really feels like I'm in the adventurous part of a movie. If my life is a story, and if it was like a movie, this would be the scene that I would get really excited about watching, but I wouldn't necessarily want to be the character in the movie. It's like when we watch Frodo and he's going to destroy the ring, And poor guy's been, going for, how many days already. And then he has to, climb this mountain and face this spider that's 4 times. You're like, give the guy a break. Yeah. But that spider was put there in the story for a reason, and every other obstacle too. And that's why we come back to that movie. In many ways, my entire life, I've longed for adventure. And I've longed for opportunities to overcome the fear that I think that I've had ever since I was a child. We're doing a documentary right now where we're really going to tell the story of some of the trauma I experienced as a child, and not to blame all the fear on that, but I had been looking, I think, all my life for opportunities to overcome fear because I had a lot of it. And so in some ways, I'm like, what? How am I about to say this sentence? But I'll go, this is exactly what I've wanted my entire life. Now, of course, I don't want, I don't want necessarily suffering.
Yeah.
I want the lesson without the lesson.
Right.
But
I can all relate to that, yeah.
But I do have to just remind myself, this is the part of the story that you usually are very attracted to. And so try to be as present and then faithful as you can, and just accept this next piece of the curriculum as graciously and courageously as possible. And and once again, it's amazing when I go, if I'm not thinking about, what's going to happen in 3 months when I get my scan, being right here with you right now. If someone said, seriously, Paul, what's wrong with this? Tell me, what's wrong? What's so wrong? What's wrong with your life right now? Yeah. I'd go, come on, stop. To be honest, actually, there's nothing. I have zero pain in my body at the moment. It's all in my mind, and it's all thinking about the future. But here and now, I've got nothing but gratitude. And a lot of joy. Yeah. Sometimes I don't want to admit that, because then you go, oh, there's like something about wanting to milk the drama for all that it's worth. And I don't want to give it away that there's no pain in my body. You want to go,
right.
But you know what? No. If I'm only thinking about here and now, I don't think I have anything to complain about.
It's so interesting you say this, because, even in that same passage where he says, don't worry about what you eat or drink or wear, you could feel like Jesus is being sort of, minimizing difficulty and, hey, it's all okay. And, it does reflect a little bit the attitude that you were just reflecting, actually. It does feel like the mood of what Jesus is calling you to feels like the mood that you're in, which, praise God for that. That's an encouragement of his work. But he finishes with, each day has enough worries of its own. And there is that sense, isn't there, even as we've covered in the previous talks that we've done together, that there's a sense of the immediacy of the now and the living in the now, and the trusting that your Father knows that you need these things, which is also in that part, and the fact that it doesn't say God, but it says your heavenly Father. It's not just the heavenly Father; it's your heavenly Father. So there's a personalness about that. Doesn't a father care for his children? Doesn't he? Yeah. And that. So that's got to be in there. But there is, so everything you've said is that, but there's also that immediacy of, hey, yeah, each day has worries, but it's got enough worries already. Deal with those, address those. Don't always be looking beyond. So I love what you're saying.
Yeah. All right, well, let me read the chorus lyrics to give us even a little more fuel for the conversation. It goes, the answers seem locked away. I want to run, I want to go home. Still, I'd like to stay on this journey we're on. to be honest with you, I mean, these words have probably never been more true than right now. There is a temptation to run, and there's a temptation to just honestly want to go home, if I can be honest.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, it's going back to what we were just talking about. If you said that, well, why are we here in the first place? We're here for relationship. All I have to do is look at Katie or look at my son or daughter, and instantly I go, and more than that.
Yeah.
My friends, my community. I have so many reasons. It's not just them, but of course, chiefly them. If I look at them, automatically I go, I want to stay. Like, I want to stay on this journey, and it's worth it. All this pain, golly, this suffering that just seems well, I guess in that other lyric, it's like it just feels like it keeps on raining. But still, it's worth it. And I still want to be here, and I want to be fully engaged. And this has been one of the ways where it's weird that a spiritual practice actually could be a distraction to this at times, where, for the last few years, if you want to call it centering prayer, if you want to call it contemplative prayer, if you want to call it Christian meditation, if you just want to call it sitting there and surrendering to God for 20 minutes and practicing solitude and silence, whatever you want to call it, that's been a safe place for me in the midst of, the fear. I will retreat to this inner sanctuary where I think that there's a part of that's really healthy. You go to an infinite place, and in that infinite place, your spirit, it finds refuge there in that inner sanctuary. But at the same time, I feel like God's called us to engage in this earthly existence. And sometimes, definitely recently, it's been easier just to retreat, because when I engage in the here and now, well, there's pain in the here and now. There's uncertainty in the here and now. There's danger in the here and now. But I think it's worth it. And so, that's the hard thing, because I go, while it would be easier to check out, I just want to stay. Because I can see, because one of the beauties of this season is God has revealed what abundant life looks like. And he's given me these invitations of, you're allowed to enjoy this. One night, I felt like that was what God was telling me. You're allowed to enjoy this. What is this? Fill in the blank. Whatever that next circumstance is. Right now, I'm here with you. And in a few minutes, you're going to pick up your son. You're allowed to enjoy that.
Yes.
And then you're going to eat a meal. You're allowed to enjoy that.
That's right.
Take a sip of coffee or water, whatever.
Yeah.
You're allowed to enjoy this. You look at the trees, you feel the breeze. You are allowed to enjoy that, by the way. Like, you could soak that in like a little toddler. A toddler plays with the grass and goes, what is this sensation of my hand running over grass? And that toddler's enjoying it. And the toddler gets all giddy as the wind blows. We're also allowed to enjoy that. And so there's just so much here that's beautiful, even though it's hard and painful. It's so worth it. So how do we balance that tension of, because when someone offers the verse usually of, you should be in, but not of this world. I usually find the invitation that's being given to me at that point is, think of things that are eternal. Don't get too caught up in the temporal. But at the same time, it's like, well, how do you do the other thing? Wherein it's a temptation to just act like this world has nothing to offer, and I just can't wait to get out of this crap hole. No, God said that abundant life was possible. And I've tasted and seen. And once you taste and see, you can't untaste and unsee. I guess like if you were to turn the gem once again on, say, that verse that says, be in, but not of this world, how could you also talk about the other side of that coin, where it's not just to keep your mind set on things above, but also going, don't check out of this existence. You're here on purpose.
Yeah, that's great. I so appreciate your honesty in that whole idea of the retreat thing. And it does actually apply to the agency question again, doesn't it? Where you say you're kind of using something spiritual as an excuse for not exercising your responsible agency. I think that's a really good point that you make. Just to go back to the relationality angle first, before we go to the don't be in the world but of the world. I think that, you look at certain verses where people are wrestling with this question. And again, it's wonderful that the Bible has examples like this. Paul is in jail in Philippians. He doesn't know if he's going to live or die. And he actually is wrestling, musing over this question. What do I really want here? And he says, you know what? I'd actually rather die and be with Christ. And see, his move is not just die and escape. It's to die and be with Christ. It's a relational move. It's a positive relational move. Now, again, for some people, I know the struggle of the here and now is so much, and they can't lift their eyes up even to see that. But I guess we can put that positive side on it, just for those people who don't have eyes to even look up at the moment and see that. That it's like it's not just about escaping the here and now, it's about the relationship again of being with him. But then Paul goes on to say, but knowing that it is more necessary for you that I remain, I know that I will remain for your progress and joy in the faith. He recognizes that the relationships that he has here and now, there's a purpose in what's happening to him. And his own suffering is causing the other Christians who are reading to be more bold and serious about their faith, because they are looking at what's happened to Paul, the apostle. And I just think we can't ignore that fact, can we? That, look, and this is hard pill to swallow sometimes, but it's like, it's the reality. If someone belongs to the Lord, if someone has seen the precious gift of Jesus that has, and the Bible says that has purchased us with his blood, then we belong to him, and we do have a purpose, and he does have agency. Your situation is not out of his control. And so if you are still alive and you're still here, then it's like, again, focusing in on the moment. How is he using this now? I don't know. I don't have to know how he's using it, but what I do know is I'm here for a reason, and I need to persevere, and I need to, and that's what Paul's saying, for the good of others relationally. And yeah, we can't lose sight of that. Sometimes it's hard, isn't it? Because we're like, well, really, all the other people around me are having a great time, and I'm having a horrible time. So how can I possibly be of help? Well, maybe there's a sense in which you're a reality check, to other people. And
if you think of it as, and we'll talk about this on another song, but that's helpful if you can accept the fact that this is a team sport.
Yeah, there you go.
If it's about me, and it's just about me and my personal salvation, then it's like, all right, I'm just not happy.
Good luck.
Because, hey, y'all are having a great time. Doesn't matter. I'm not.
That's right.
But you're right. If you do view it as, no, this is a collective unit, like we are one body, then you can, I can have some peace with that and say, if this is a plight that is being gone through for some good, for the sake of another who really is, we're all part of the same body. This is the team sport. I mean, that's people take a charge in basketball, or sacrifice the body in a sport for the sake of the team, not because they want to do it, but they go, no, this is going to help the team. You're right.
Yeah.
But we can talk more about the collective versus no, this is just in isolation on another talk. But
yeah, no, that's good. I mean, it's so good to draw attention to that, because I think that does give a perspective, as we're going to talk about in the other talk, about so much. It's not an individual sport, and we just can't do it alone. And yeah, so more on that later. But I think to your point about, being in the world but not of the world, I think we would be really careful actually with that verse, because he goes on to say, to list what the things of the world are. And he doesn't say green trees, green grass, meaningful work, loving family, seeking the good of the city, the welfare of society. Like, he doesn't list those things as beware of the world or do not be in the world. He talks about the things of the world being things that are characterized by the agency of the devil and him messing things up. And so to be in the world means to be in the world, like in a full-on sense, to be engaged. I mean, Paul, this is a topic that I really feel I feel a lot about. I thought a lot about, just how much of Jewish thought was so much physical. They lived in a physical land. They physically sacrificed animals. They physically went on journeys. They physically sung. Think about the Psalms. They physically went to a temple. They, so much of it was physical, and they inherited land, and the land was given back to their ancestors in Jubilee, and all these things. And it's so physical and so real. And if you go back to the beginning of the Bible, God looks at the world that he has made and said, the world is very good. And so there's corruption in the world, but the world is good. And our role, for those of us who are Christians, this is where we get it so wrong. It's kind of like, our role is to kind of run away and just wait for Jesus to come back. And what are we going to do in the meantime? Well, God's all about ideas, because becoming a Christian is about believing an idea about Jesus and believing that truth. Whereas the word for faith actually means trust. It's a relational word. So you're not just believing ideas, which then leads you down the path of like, I've just got to learn and learn and learn. Right. And the more things I learn, the more certain I can be about believing the right things, and that's going to make God happy. So Christianity becomes about learning. It essentially becomes like a Greek philosophical school in different clothing, where it's all about learning ideas and learning ideas and learning ideas, and then I believe the right things and God's happy with me. It's like, no, it's every truth in the Bible is a truth to be applied in life. So to kind of start this off by saying, be in the world, to kind of give proper focus on that, be in the world, like to just put a pause at that moment.
Okay, yes.
Yes, be in the world. Like that's a really positive statement and commandment. Exercise your agency and be a person in the world, and believe that God has given you agency. You and I have purpose in life. There's a reason why we are in this space, that our storyline is part of other people's storylines. That's in God's good purpose, and we have to believe that, because that gives us a sense of purpose.
Yes.
Now, if it's okay to then say, but not of the world, I think then it actually speaks to the positivity of our agency, of us representing God, the Father, and Jesus, his Son, as agents in the world, because now it's like about being that good part of the world that the world was meant to be.
Yeah.
Versus that messed up part that Satan, the evil agent, is trying to mess up.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be absorbed into the systems that are going to mess the world up.
Yeah.
But you do want to be fully in the world. So I guess I'm kind of saying, and in answer to your question about that specific verse, that I do think it is a boot in the backside, as it were, to get up and engage and believe that we can have agency in those things.
Yeah. Yeah. Bruce, this is so good. I think we're probably about out of time, but this has been a great joy, as always. we'll go forth, and over this next month we'll try to apply it. We'll try to be fully present and fully engaged, and try to have that balance within us as we do it. And perhaps we might be able to enjoy these moments in the next month more than we've ever enjoyed any moments before.
Well said. Well said.
Well, friends, thanks again for listening. As has become the tradition, I'm going to give it a go at playing this song unplugged. So here it is, this journey we're on. Enjoy the day.
Called the doctor and begged him to fix me. He just checked my heart, said it's still beating. Tried the priest, he said, keep on praying. I thought I found dry ground, it keeps on raining. The answers seem locked away, and I wanna run, I wanna go home. Still I'd like to stay on this journey we're on, this journey we're on. Polled the crowd and asked them, what is my problem? I can't seem to think straight, get to the bottom. I want new eyes so I can see through this. So busy with holy, once just be human. The answers seem locked away, and I wanna run, I wanna go home. Still I'd like to stay on this journey through oceans, mountains, through coins, and the fountain made every last wish. The stars just fell down, so I searched through the desert. The answer I found is life is uncertain, but love is unbounded. And the answers seem locked away. I wanna run, wanna go home. Still I'd like to stay. Yeah, I wanna run, I wanna go home. Still I'd like to stay on this journey